I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
John's on right hand here, so we'll give her a second.
Okay.
I hope so. Hope that-
There she is.
She's walking. We just did it, no problem.
We'll now call March 31st, 2020 board meeting to order. Peter has been excused. We also have Carl and the chief and Jane and David present. New business, AR-10-20, amendment to personnel manual.
Okay, in front of you is that resolution. What this is a very good put together of the 10 pages that was distributed via email via the memorandum. So from my notes, what I went upon the board approving this, what I would like to do then is send a copy of the memorandum to all full-time employees of the village, so they can review it. Essentially, what this does is it does two things. It classifies the employees that we would deem essential or as emergency first responders, that therefore exempting them from the, I gotta get all the acronyms proper here. It would exempt them from the FFCRA allotment of 12 weeks of sick leave, and then it would weaken or relax the current policies that we have for sick leave for the village, and it would extend to them 88 hours if needed on one of two scenarios. The employee tests positive for COVID-19, or two, the employee has been directed by the Department of Health or designee of the Department of Health to self-quarantine due to the exposure to COVID-19. So essentially what we're looking to do is clarify who our people are within the village who are deemed emergency responders, and then amend our personnel manual to allow for this 88 hours of paid coverage if and when somebody would become exposed and need the coverage. So I'm here to answer any questions. There's a lot of language attached. What I can tell you is the biggest uncertainty of all of this was who had the right and the ability to deem who was essential and who was emergency. So that was the talk for the last week or so. So the clarification is still, it goes both ways. What I will tell you is I've been working all week with members of other communities: Marshfield, Washburn, Greendale, Hartford, West Bend, Delafield, Swamico, Delavan, McFarland, Platteville. I can go on, but these are the ones that I have been conversing with through the Wisconsin City Managers Association. Almost everybody has the same policy. They're doing the exact same thing. They're exempting to be able to control the usage of the allotted sick leave, and then being able to retain services. A lot of the smaller municipalities they're deeming a lot of people essential because they don't have manpower. In the case of a crisis that we may see in a week or two, they need all hands on deck. So open for discussion.
Do you have any ability to do like second in command? I mean, I know we don't have the manpower for that, but at some point, because we're creating verbiage, we're creating this resolution, do we have the availability to, let's say, you're unable to come in and because you're out, who do we have as second in command?
With the revision to the personnel manual that was approved at the end of, or the start of the year, there is now a chart in that personnel manual.
So that would,
yep. It would essentially do, it would flow to the department heads after me.
Okay.
So,
Well, this, yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
So the exemption from the family first stuff here,
Correct.
that means that if somebody on this list has children at home, they can't, they're not
Correct.
allowed to take leave
Correct.
off of that.
Correct.
if their spouse is working and they have no childcare, do we have a way to address that or anything?
That's the biggest thing. So we went through, we looked at the potential labor pool that we have. Unfortunately, we don't have, we looked at everybody potentially that could use this tool.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like everybody's got some kind of coverage.
Okay.
So, do I think it's gonna be an issue? No.
All
On the other hand, we could technically eliminate those by people who could want the leave, but then their significant other may not work or are in a capacity where they don't have coverage. So, we kind of eliminated it all. And then I guess the biggest piece is we are still open if they need to, they can file a grievance. So we
Yeah.
could go through the grievance procedure with the village if it went to that. So that's always an option as well. So, I'll identify, technically, the building clerk, the accounts payroll clerk, and the librarian are the three potential people that are not covered under this exemption list. So it leaves pretty much, for all the other full-time employees are fairly covered except for those three positions.
Okay, and then if somebody that's on this list gets sick, then this list would apply to whoever,
Correct,
so.
correct. If
Okay.
we lose any of them,
It's going back to the second.
Yeah, the relaxation of our sick policy would then allow for them to have 88 hours of paid sick leave in consistent consecutive days, which would be 5 working days, a weekend, 5 more working days, another weekend, and then potentially another working day for the 11th 8-hour day, which would allow them to get through that 15-day period, what they're suggesting for quarantine.
What I'm thinking is, like, say Chris gets sick, right? And so she could test positive, obviously she's gone, right, for that period of time, but because we're listing the person's title, does that apply to a temporary posting to that? Because somebody would have to take over her position.
It would be second in charge,
Yeah.
which would be her next in line, which would be the sergeant.
Yeah, so these titles would apply to
Correct.
even a temporary posting.
Correct, yeah, because he'd be a sworn officer as well.
Okay.
All sworn while out.
Do employees have to exhaust their current sick time built up
No.
first? No, okay.
Nope.
This is
This
just,
would automatically take in effect the 88 hours.
okay.
So that was like the payoff. It seemed like, hey, we're stripping this away, but there was no compensation. And they can't control being public servants if they can or ever get affected, so the least you can do is cover them.
Mhm.
Where I'll also say is that the village has also been proactive by giving the employees starting, except for Nathan and Jane, I mean, we're in a rotation now, so half the employees are not working this week but are being compensated. So we're doing everything in our power to be preemptive, but then we're also taking care of it on the backside in case somebody does get sick, where we cover them if they do fall ill with it.
Well, the employees that are rotating, working one week and not, now, how would their 88 hours, if they were off, then their 88 hours will run consecutively,
That's the
right?
kicker, Dan. We're hoping that they're all at home doing absolutely nothing right now, but we can't guarantee that.
Mhm.
So if at any time they come to us, and as soon as they report to us, it would start immediately at
And run
88 hours.
consecutive.
And run consecutively, correct. And then if we had to, we'd get right back into a rotation of on week, off week, in order to satisfy, until we're allowed to have people back at work.
In the unfortunate situation where, let's say, somebody on our staff is diagnosed with COVID-19 and they've exhausted that 88 hours, I guess my thought is there's always a chance that somebody in their household could have also contracted it, but then they're gonna extend. Do we have that in, I mean, I know that I may be far-reaching here, but it seems like a lot of the far-reaching I've done lately isn't so far-reaching anymore.
Right. At that point, they do have, at their own disposal, they do have comp time, sick time, and vacation accruals also. So it would revert back to their own sick time bank at the end of the 88 hours. All of our full-time employees have significant levels of sick time, or accrued, or comp, or vacation if they need to.
Because it is possible.
Yeah, it is, yep.
Any other questions?
Was there any feedback from staff at all on this? Did they get to read anything, or
It was,
were there any questions?
Mostly just department heads. I think what we've shown that we're looking out for staff, you know, with the 2 weeks, plus 2 weeks in here of sick time, plus the week, you know, making their checks whole, whether off during the switching. So we're doing as best we can for a small government. I don't know what else we can do. Can't pay everybody to stay at home, but we're doing what we can do, so. I think this is fair, and it protects the village, too, which is just as important.
Okay, and that covers you, Chris? Chief?
I had Sergeant Barr review it. He said that he thought that everything looked in line. As far as like us as first responders, a lot of what came out, or the handouts that I handed out to you, a lot of that won't apply to us anyway, with the exception of just one employee, so. The only concern that we had was, if we start utilizing our part-timers, because our part-timers are not in the, personnel manual, they're not recognized as, so if they end up getting COVID while they're employed here, there's nothing for them to fall back on, because that's what it basically says in the personnel manual, but I guess it is what it is.
Which I believe that's what's happening everywhere.
Yep.
Part-timers don't get paid.
Good. You also need to say what you told me this morning, Chris. We have also have part-timers that are working other departments. It'd be hard to differentiate if they had contracted in Hortonville or at a different department,
Yeah,
so.
and if they were, and I mean, we have one that's on defense right now, he's going through the hiring process for Clintonville. But I don't think that anybody would be putting another officer going through the FTO. I know as a chief, I wouldn't do that. So I'm not sure if that's what's going on, but time will tell. But other than that, we got it all right, so.
So the only last comment that I had, based on the entire list here, most of this is office personnel or your law enforcement. The only one is, looks like Carl. So whoever would be replace Carl if he got sick, I would suggest that person should be notified of this. So because if he gets sick, he's going to instantly, he or she, sorry, would instantly be restricted from this without any prior knowledge.
Correct.
That would be my only suggestion, and I don't know who that is, and
That
if they have
person's
already.
also,
Our public works superintendent.
Was that who it is?
also on there.
Okay,
Okay.
all right, then, yep, then we're good.
And that person is in rotation currently with Carl, opposite schedule of Carl, so.
Don't get sick.
Any questions or concerns?
That's it.
If not, we would need a motion.
What are we doing here?
I don't think it's necessary to read it. I would just say
Okay.
R-10-20 resolution, and read the top sentence, maybe that'd be.
All right, I'll make a motion to approve R-10-20, resolution to designate emergency responder employees under the Family First Coronavirus Act and amended personnel manual.
Second.
Roll call. Dan?
Aye.
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 Motion carried. We need a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are